Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Kevin Amolsch. Thanks for being on the show, Kevin.
Thanks, Whitney. I'm really excited to be here with you today.
Great. I'm excited for you to be here also. Kevin started Pine Financial Group 10 years ago and has successfully raised over $70 million in private equity to fund hard money loans. In the last 10 years, Pine Financial Group has closed almost 1,400 deals worth over $390 million. Kevin, thanks again for being on the show. Yeah. That's an impressive amount of money that you've been able to raise, and we want to dig into that. Obviously, the syndication business, that's a pretty important skill to have. So, but give our listeners a little more about your background, and what you're up to right now.
Yeah. So I got started at a pretty young age. I was 21 years old. I bought my first house, and I lived in it for a few years, moved out of it. And I kept it as a rental. And you know what? You probably know this, Whitney. It just is such a fabulous investment. And I saw the values going up. I was cash flowing. I was paying off my mortgage. And I was like, you know what? Real estate is what I want to use to get me rich. So I started focusing on real estate. And I was just doing the single families, fix and flips, wholesaling, buying properties, holding them in as rental properties. Doing all this while going to college and working. So I worked really hard, making phone calls on passing periods at school. And I built up a nice little portfolio of rental properties. And what I learned in the real estate business that I love, the passion that I have for it, is on the financing side. The financing is what creates the deal. It's how you negotiate it. It's what puts it together, how you write your offers. It's all comes down to the money. I love money. So I focused on the financing side and I became a mortgage broker, and that was terrible. I had no control. I was approving people. They were finding their dream homes, and then guidelines were changing. And I had to go back and tell them they can't buy their house, and it was just awful. So I wanted more control, and I started raising private capital. And this was back in 2006. And I had a partner at the time, and her and I were out there making loans, raising capital, making loans for people to fix and flip houses. And then we decided to go a different direction. I started my company, Pine Financial, and that was in 2008, and it's just taken off. And that's what I'm doing now. I spend most of my time with Pine Financial or doing some developments. Great.
So, help the listener who is just getting started in raising money. These, I think everyone, when they're getting started, they're fearful of that conversation, with investors and can you help that person to get started? What are some things that they need to be thinking about just getting started about, with learning how to raise capital?
Yeah, I think the skill of raising money really comes down to your confidence. If you can get in front of somebody and show you know what you're doing and show that you're confident, you're going to close them. I've just seen that over and over and over. The scary thing, and what you're alluding to here, is that first investor. You're not necessarily confident because you haven't ever done it before. But I think if you could practice your scripts and your routines, and even if it's in front of a mirror, and get comfortable with what you're talking about, that's really going to be your first step. And then when you sit down with a potential investor, you will have some confidence, and that will come through in the conversation, I think.
No, that's good. That's good advice. And what are some things that we should be thinking about? For that listener, he's thinking, okay, what do I need to know before I have this conversation with this investor? What's he going to ask me?
Yeah, I could tell you the high net worth people that I know. First of all, they're extremely nice and giving people, loving people. And sometimes you think richer or affluent or richer people are intimidating, but that's not the case at all. I think that they're really easy to get along with. And I forgot where I was going with that. You wanted to know, what was the question again?
Yeah, just the questions that, the listeners
the questions
that's getting started is going to be worried about, like what am I going to have to answer? What do I need to be prepared to answer?
Yeah, absolutely. The high net worth people, from my experiences, they're more concerned with the return of their capital than the return on capital. I'm sure you've heard that before. You don't want to go into a meeting selling a return or making promises of they're going to make all this money. What you really should be focusing on is how you're going to protect their money, how you're going to keep it safe and return it to them, and how long that's going to take you to do that. Those are the types of questions that you'll typically get in a meeting like that.
I like that. So you're going to focus on how to protect their money and when they're going to get it back. Is that what you said?
Right.
Nice. So how do you find these investors? Besides the local REIs, I hear that often. We get out to the REI, club and all that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to find accredited investors or the high net worth investors?
Well, I'm in a lucky position right now because I have a Regulation A that's been approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission, which allows me to actually market my offering. So I could put up a billboard that says, "Hey, I'll pay you 8% on your money." Now, most people, especially newer folks, aren't able to do that because we're talking about a security here, and you can't typically market private security. So you need to go through your network. Now, you said the REIs, the real estate investment clubs. I do love that way to do it. And the reason I love that is because you're dealing with people who understand real estate. And if they can understand real estate, they're going to have a better grasp of what you're offering. But there's lots of ways to do it. My chiropractor is an investor with me. I've talked to my dentist, almost gotten my dentist closed. But just tell everybody you know or everyone you talk to what you do, and then it's going to be a snowball. You're going to have, when you have success, people talk to their friends. Like, look, I'm making money with this guy. Maybe you should consider investing with him. So the first one's a little tougher, then it gets easier and easier and easier, and it's just through the network.
So okay. So you're finding your investors and let's see. We talked about meeting them people. We talked about the questions. Really, what's next? How are you marketing to those investors?
Yeah, I guess I'll share this with you. Aside from my elevator pitch and just talking to people, the number one way I've found them is through seminars and education events that I put on, similar to what you're doing here at Whitney. You're getting in front of people and you're the expert, and people want to work with experts. So I like to put on free seminars, investment seminars, and teach people, and then say, oh, by the way, I raise money and this is what I do with the money. And I've gotten a lot of investors that way. So it's just taking the confidence to put together something like a podcast or a seminar or a webinar and doing it that way.
So what are you talking about at the seminar, and how do you market that?
So the seminar that when I was just getting started and I was bringing in my first handful of investors was I teamed up with a real estate agent. It was a Keller Williams real estate agent, and he was teaching the Gary Keller's Millionaire Real Estate Investor book. There's a seminar that goes along with that book that the agents are able to go out and teach. So he had a 1 hour presentation that he did, and then I went for 1 hour talking all about the financing side. So how do the mortgages look? How does private money look? How do you yield spreads and rates and different things that I understood. So we teamed up that way, and the event was like the Millionaire Real Estate Investor event, and it was a free seminar. We both marketed to our list. And, first couple, we've got 2 or 3 people to show up, and then it just kind of grew from there.
Wow. No, I like that. You teamed up with somebody. So, you didn't have to be the one with all the knowledge, right? I mean, you had a partner in another sense, you had a partner that was taking part of that, taking part of the show, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, the database is super important in this business. Maybe we get into that a little bit, but the database is one of the most valuable assets that you will have in this business. And he had a small database, I had a small database, and we don't compete. So we wanted to cross-pollinate. I wanted to get some of his lists, he gets some of mine. So we would both market. And if we could, in fact, I have done other seminars where we bring in an attorney, or we bring in another mortgage broker or something, and we all just team up and do a big event, and we're all marketing the event.
Yeah, I love that. So I wanted to go back though, and I lost my train of thought a minute ago, but I wanted to ask you, you talked about being able to market these events, for your investment opportunities. And so for the listener that's not sure why that's a big deal, can you elaborate on that just a little bit on why you can do that and why somebody else cannot?
Yeah, they call it general solicitation. When I say they, I'm talking about the Securities and Exchange Commission or your local regulators in the state. A lot of securities are regulated at the state level. But if you're generally soliciting, that's that's considered illegal in most cases. So you're not allowed to tell people that you have this investment opportunity unless you have a pre-established relationship with them. And that's hard to do. It's definitely through networking and going to coffees and lunches, and it's challenging. It's all through your network, right? It's hard work. For me, with the Regulation A, I could send out a direct mail campaign, or like I said, I could put up a billboard, or I could just do something on social media. And so it just brings in a lot more people, a lot more interest very fast. But a Regulation A is 50 grand. So it's not for someone who's just getting started. And
I'm glad you said that. I was going to ask, what's the downfall? Why does not, everyone do that?
Right. So and the difference between a Regulation A and some of the Reg Ds, most syndications are Reg Ds. Okay. But Reg Ds oftentimes are, if you're going to market your security or solicit, you have to do it to accredited investors only. And you can only bring in accredited investors. See, the Regulation A is open to anybody. And I could accept small investment amounts if I like from non-accredited investors. So it just opens up the possibilities.
Yeah, and you said it could cost up to 50 grand or more to set this up properly or legally.
Right.
Yeah. So why is it worth it for you to do that and not somebody else?
Don't know if it is not somebody else. I mean, everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different. For me personally, the reason it's good is, I've got about $73 million out on the street right now, at work. So we're not talking about a $2 million syndication here. We're talking about 70 million, and it probably won't be long until I'm, over 100 million. So for me, It makes a lot of sense to spend 50 grand because I can make that up quick.
Yeah. And so, what types of, what are you investing in? What are you investing that 70 million in?
Oh, those are the 70 million is all in loans. So new construction, fix and flip loans. Yeah.
Okay. But, and also I wanted to go back to we were talking about database and, I wanted to ask you, like, what CRM do you recommend or use?
So I use a couple of different ones, actually 3. I really like ACT because I understand it. I'm sure that there's better ones out there now, but that used to be the big one, right? So I use ACT, but for some of the more automated touches, I like Constant Contact a lot. The downside to Constant Contact is if somebody signs up on my website, it won't automatically send them, 2 or 3 emails. I forget what you call that, but
like
Constant
email
Contact
campaign,
like an email drip campaign or something. Right. So I use Aweber for that piece. So if you sign up to get my free report or whatever it is that I'm giving away on the website, you'll get an email back, and then you might get one a week later and then one in a month. And then you're going to be in the Constant Contact where you get newsletters and invites to events and that kind of thing. So
you use ACT, and you said there's a couple other CRMs, or is that the Constant Contact and Aweber?
Yeah.
Okay.
So ACT is the primary one.
So how are you staying in front of investors? How are you, just keeping that relationship active and staying top of mind?
Yeah, that's pretty easy because they get a check from me every single month. So that one's not a problem, but I do newsletters every month. I get tons of great feedback about that. I highly recommend you touch your potential investors as often as you can. We have a YouTube channel that we're putting out a video a week. If I had more time and a little more motivation, I would be doing something just like what you're doing. I think the podcasts are huge. So I don't know if that helps you, but yeah, I try to touch them as much as I can.
So what kind of information are you putting in your newsletters to market to investors or potential investors?
Yeah, they really like to know how the company is doing and how my staff is doing. My staff has relationships with our clients. So for an example, Charlotte she's having a baby. She's getting ready to have a baby probably in about a week. So we like to talk about that. And, if someone has a cool trip that they went on, or they're doing something with their family, we talk about that. I try to keep it personal. I want to have this relationship. This is a relationship business. And then I'll do some articles about how to improve your business and about real estate and that. So there do some education in there as well.
I like how you put in the more personal aspects too, so it's just more of it builds a relationship, right? Instead of just being this kind of superficial thing. Here's how you invest in real estate and see you next month.
Yeah, exactly. And I got 2 girls, and I'm a proud father, and I talk about that, and I'm not running away with your money. I'm here.
Yeah. So, give the listener some more, I guess, tips in just raising capital. What are maybe some things that problems or common mistakes that you see that, or maybe, they're common, but maybe not as obvious, that we wouldn't know of.
Oh, that's a good question. So a common mistake in raising money. Well, I think people, they might be offering a preferential return that's too high. That would be a good example that I see some people do. Or they close their mind on how they could structure a deal with a private investor. They might say, hey, we're going to split a deal 50-50. And I think being so focused on something like that, you're giving them lots of opportunities that will benefit both you and an investor. Maybe an investor doesn't want 50% of the deal. Maybe they just want a return. Or maybe they just want an opportunity at other deals. Or it could be anything. So I would say maybe closing your mind a little bit would be a mistake, and I would ask that everyone open up their mind a little bit, and that would help them raise some money. Other mistakes is focusing on returns and not returning the capital and not protecting it. I hear that a lot.
So, could you go into a little more in depth there? Just protecting their return and not focusing on that.
Yeah. So, when you're sitting down with a private investor, the returns always comes up. And so you might say, well, I can get you a 12% return. This is a 12% return. This is how I can afford that. And they'll focus on that 12% return. My advice would be like, well, the deal can only afford to pay, a 9% return or an 8% return, but I'm going to keep you really safe because we're going to be putting a lien on the property in your name. So it's secured by this, and this is the value. Let me show you the value of the property. And here's the lien. And oh, by the way, here's the title insurance so that you know that your lien's insured. And you could do an equity type investment, like give you 20% or 30% or heck 50% of the deal, but you could secure that with a lien on the property. So that makes investors feel very comfortable.
So, I'd like for you to tell the listeners a little bit about, or get us started on the recent deal that you syndicated, and maybe we'll ask, we'll get into a few questions about that specific property.
Yeah, so we talked about that a little bit before we started recording here. It wasn't recent, actually. I'm still in it, so I guess that's recent. But when I first syndicated this deal, it's in Brighton, Colorado. It's an 80-acre piece of raw dirt. And the idea was to build or develop it and sell it to a builder that will do 150 houses, 360 apartments, and 10 acres of inline retail space. And it's a fantastic location right on the south side of Brighton, which is pretty close to Denver. And that deal was brought to me by somebody that I really knew well and I trusted. Now, I didn't know anything about land development, and I didn't know anything about the team he had behind him, but I knew this guy, and I was getting started in this business, so I wanted to be involved. So I raised $1 million from friends and family and colleagues, and I injected it into this deal. This was supposed to be a temporary, basically bridge until they got their commercial loan in place. The problem was this was 2008. And if you remember, banks were closing in 2008. So the deal fell apart, and the sponsor started stripping the $1 million to pay his mortgage on other pieces of land that weren't even associated with this.
Oh, wow.
So when I found out that there was this going on and the loan was in foreclosure, it was a mess. I raised another $2 million in a different company, a different LLC we structured, put a Reg D together, raised $2 million, and I bought the note that was foreclosing. So I saved the deal. I kicked the prior management out and I took it over. I had no idea what I was doing. So I tried to hire people and bring people around me that were good at land development. And it's been a long, slow process, but right now we have the property sold, and I'm on the Metro District Board. And so my profit is going to be coming from Metro District bonds that the Metro District issues, and then it's going to reimburse for development costs, public improvements. And I negotiated with the developer that bought it to give me half of whatever his reimbursements are, I get half of them. So I'll be able to return all the $2 million back plus about a 50-ish% return. The downside is that first million's gone.
Wow. So how do you prevent that from happening in the future?
You know, what I've learned is when you're doing a deal like that and that size, the sponsors and the management behind the deal, that's where you need to put your effort in the underwriting. The deal could be great, but it could be screwed up by bad management. Obviously, the 2008 thing, we didn't see that coming, so that was huge. But if I had better management in place, we could have got through that problem. So I would say spend time on the sponsors and the managers and dig into them. It's not hard to find bad stuff on bad people on the internet.
Right. So, but this individual, you felt like you really knew well, correct?
I didn't know the sponsor. I knew one of the team members that brought me in, but he got pushed out. And then I didn't know any of the team other than him. And that's my mistake. I should have dug into the team.
Nice. So going forward, what kind of research, or will you do going forward as you raise capital for teams like that?
That's interesting. I just got asked to do the very similar thing for this really interesting oil deal up in Canada. And the very first thing I did is I Googled all the sponsors or all the management team. And I found out that one of them had been sued for fraud. So that makes it real easy to stop doing my diligence on the oil and gas opportunity. So going forward, I always start there.
Just Google somebody. It's amazing what comes up.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously after that deal, a lot of people would say, "Oh, I'm never going to do that again." Just especially the 2008 stuff. A lot of people got burned. I was just talking to someone today on the phone that was like, I'm going to get back into real estate, but I got hit so bad during that time. I'm not sure if it'll happen or not. But I appreciate you still making it happen and getting back in. And so what are some ways that you've improved your business recently that we could all apply to ours?
Some ways that I've improved it.
Yeah, maybe one thing.
I think training systems are huge. So I think I would focus on that. If you can hire good people as quickly as possible. Trying to do everything yourself really slows down your growth, and it's going to limit your income. So I say for me, I'm always trying to hire good people and train them the best that I can to be better than me. And frankly, they are. My staff is amazing.
Wow. No, I like that. Hire good people as quick as possible, and doing everything yourself slows down your growth. That's so true. So what's one thing that's contributed, or maybe the top thing that's contributed to your success in raising capital and just in the real estate business?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's resilience. I really believe that you can't fail unless you quit. You could make mistakes and fall down, and frankly, you're going to. But if you just get up and go and get up and go and get up and go, you will not fail. So for me, it's just the grind. Like, just go.
No, I like that. I like that a lot. Nobody said it would be easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
That's right. This is not easy. It's not get rich quick. This is a slow, extremely fun process.
So what's a way that you like to give back, Kevin?
I spend a lot of time donating my time to help kids. So I sit on the board for the associate board for the Boys and Girls Club here in Denver. And I really enjoy that organization. Inside the real estate world, I love teaching. So I write on blogs and I teach classes and put on events. And with the exception of one event that we charge $20 to get into, and that's just to pay for the room, everything we do is free. So we really try to help as many people as we can.
I like that. And is there a need in your business right now that you'd like to let the listeners know about?
We're growing. The need's always capital, right? So we're actively raising capital. My team's lending it out like crazy. So it's just meeting new people and getting to know good folks.
Great. So tell the listeners how they can learn more about you and your business or get in touch with you.
Yeah, the best way is probably the website. It's www.pinefinancialgroup.com. Or you could email. I'm happy to talk to anybody. If you want to email me, it's Kevin@pinefinancialgroup.com. Email's much better than phone. I don't take all the calls that come into my office, Frank, just to be candid with you, but I will respond to emails. So it's Kevin@pinefinancialgroup.com.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I really appreciate, you just elaborating on your experience and helping us, it just in the business of raising capital, just from your success. I really appreciate your time. And I hope the listeners will connect with you and Pine Financial, and also go to LifeBridge Capital and connect with me and schedule a call and go to our Facebook group so we can all learn from experts like Kevin and grow our business together. And have a great day, and we will talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.